It's on? Okay. I would like you to welcome Fabio Reinhardt, member of the Berlin State Parliament or Abgeordnetenhaus. Please give him a hearty applause.
So thank you all. My name is Fabio Reinhardt. I'm one of the 15 guys in the Berlin Parliament. I'm co-chairman of the group.
Please be quiet, thank you.
Can you understand me well? At the end? Lola, is this well? No response, so I'm not heard. Hello? Somebody? Is it good, the sound? Yeah, okay. So, how come I'm standing here in front of you? I think it's not because I'm me, but it's mainly because we had some interesting experiences in Berlin last year and also this year, and some experiences which I might like to share with you today. I will try to bring some of them over, but of course, if you have any more questions afterwards, just come and approach me, and I will try to answer these questions personally. So, what experiences did we make? What was the situation in Berlin? I can tell you what we achieved in Berlin. It's not a sorcerer's game. It's just something that we started more than 5 years ago. It's just what Rick Falkwing actually taught me on the election night, something that he called drilling for oil. So you need to work hard and you need a kind of luck. So you need those two components, and if one of them is not there, then you won't find the oil. So now, how many finds did we find oil? We found it twice. Once it was in 2009, that we had the situation that the Pirate Party of Sweden was successful in the election of the European elections, and at the same time we had a campaign of the German government to censorship the internet, and that was like the second founding moment of the German Pirate Party. Then the next time we found oil last year, obviously, with the Berlin elections. So what did the campaign look like that made us successful? It is important at this time to say that the campaign didn't start only in 2011, it started in 2009. So after the elections, after the federal elections at the end of 2009, we knew that 2 years later we would have the Berlin-wide elections, and we knew that this would be the best chance ever for us in Germany to have success on a state or higher level. So we knew that we would have to prepare for this election. We would have only 2 years. So what did we do? We started to restructure the groups in Berlin. We started to introduce program groups and also local groups. We had around like 20 local groups without actually introducing them into our charter, just like organizing it themselves. And we resized the board of the district, and we rewrote our own charter, and we introduced liquid feedback and wrote a permanent party manifesto in 2010. So that was important for us to have a stable structure for what we wanted to do, to have a manifesto that we could build our campaign on, and also to have a voting structure like liquid feedback that we used to have like elections on pretty much everything, like asking like what club do we want to meet every week, like this club or the other club, and there was questions that we asked in liquid feedback, and that helped to introduce the system. Then we started to reach out for interest groups like NGOs. Some of the groups were actually the basic income groups that we tried to reach out to, as we were are the only party in Berlin who are for in Germany who are for basic income. Then in last year, at the beginning of last year, we started to put our list together, which wasn't that easy. In the end, we decided to do it all in one rush, just one vote for all the candidates. and then we had to start with the first organizational stuff to prepare the campaign. We had to collect several thousand signatures for direct candidates and also for the different district lists and the state list. And then we made a big strategy camp. Last year, I think it was like March. The strategy camp was actually quite helpful. We got all the people together, even people who don't like each other, and said, okay, we prepared the structure of the camp, but you need to define the outcome. So we don't put anything on the table, it's up to you. And so we had more than 30 people sitting there one weekend from Saturday morning to, I think it was Friday evening to Sunday evening, to really look up to a strategy that would be successful in the Berlin campaign. And actually, we all agreed, like there wasn't a single dissenting vote, we all agreed that we wanted to focus on participation and transparency. And that wasn't obvious because we had a lot of more other issues that we actually thought to be very, very important for us. But we managed to agree that these would be the two leading issues for the campaign. So that gave us a lot of legitimacy for what the campaign actually looked like. Then we had to go into the details, like making campaign posters. I think the campaign posters also gave us a huge boost in media attention, also in citizen attention. The design was looking like people, like almost all of them were candidates, and then like slogans. What do we actually want to do in the city? What do we want to change? But no names of any people. I think the design is so successful that I already saw some of these posters in France, like with the same design. Yeah, what else was important in the campaign? I would say it was like having fun. We made a huge camping trip in summer, where we also came together, talked about what is important in the campaign, what do we want to achieve, and just coming together, talking about the content, but also about ourselves. Then we had frequent press meetings, and then of course we had to go to the streets, talk to the citizens, and actually at that time the response was awesome. We just went there, waving a banner, waving a flag, and the people were coming towards us, asking us for if they could have some information materials, asking us if they could ask any questions, wanting to talk to us, and so it was very, very warm welcome. And at that time we didn't even get so much media attention, which started shortly afterwards. So what happened after we won the elections, after we got like 8.9% and we entered the parliament? So actually the stress started on day one. On the first day we made a press conference. We sat together with the press, joking around actually how bizarre it was. There was like 30 cameras, like 40 journalists, and we just sat there. We didn't prepare anything. We just went there and said, okay, guys, ask your questions. But also there we made one announcement, and there was we would focus on transparency in the government, not in government, but in parliament, and that means that we would try to transport what is going well, what is going wrong, where did we learn something. So we were trying to make our learning curve transparent for the world. So on the first day we started a blog where we were actually trying to transport the message, what we are experiencing. Then the hard stuff started. We needed to build some infrastructure. We needed to have some internal mailing lists. We didn't want to use the party's mailing list because we tried to separate party and group from the first day. We needed to set up wireless LAN in the parliament. Actually, also something that we did in the first day. Introduced a ticket system for our own stuff. Then we put up our own charter. How is the group organized? We were voting a board, actually, so it's like 5 out of 15. So it's only for organizational stuff mainly. And then we had to do all the communication with the administration of the house, which was actually quite nice because they were quite helpful to us. We had to negotiate about the rooms. some of our guys had to quit the jobs at that time. So they were still actually working and at the same time trying to put together a 15-person group with a budget of almost 100,000 euro a month, and they still had their own jobs and they still had to quit the jobs. And at that time, the talks between the Greens and Social Democrats suddenly ended. Some of them were completely surprised because it was the first day of their talks. So we assembled to an emergency meeting saying, okay, what's going to happen? The Social Democrats are going to negotiate with the Christian Democrats, so it will be a Christian Democrats, Social Democrats coalition, which would be very bad for the city, because there are many things that we have a three-quarter majority in the parliament that will not going to be accomplished, because the Christian Democrats are the only ones opposing it, and they will oppose it in the government. So we tried to send a message that we do not like this coalition to happen without actually pointing out alternatives. But we didn't get any response, and so it was quite obvious that the Social Democrats were quite happy to go into a coalition with the Christian conservatives. So we had the first constitutional meeting of the parliament, and this meeting we used to actually announce that we would sue the parliament, because the charter of the parliament, on which basis the representatives have to work, is actually not to bring in order with the constitution of Berlin, because it has some explicit, because it forbids some explicit rights to the representatives who are not allowed, for example, to bring in their own laws. It can only, the groups can bring in the laws. This is something that we criticized from the beginning, and that we will bring to a lawsuit this month against our own parliament. Then we had to start clustering our work. Like we cannot meet like 5 times a week with all 15 representatives, so we need to put in like social politics together with migration politics, looking at which fields can be worked on together. And then of course we had to separate all the different fields of work. Who is going to make social politics? Who is going to make domestic politics? Who is going to make health politics? That was when the real work started, and I'm just going to bring you a few examples. I'm responsible for domestic politics, asylum politics, and migrant politics in our group. And from these 3 you can see that all the fields, all the political fields that we have in Berlin have to be worked on. We don't go to the panel and say, well, on this thing the Pirate Party doesn't have a position. We don't say this. In the parliament we just take the things we get in, and we just take the things that we actually want to do ourselves, and we work on it. So how do we actually do it? We have a 14-point party program, a manifesto for the election. This is our basis, and then we are going to ask our members. One of the things that we had to talk on in Parliament was a financial agreement between Germany and Switzerland. So something the Pirate Party has never actually thought about, but still we managed to ask our members via liquid feedback what do they actually think about it. They said it's bad, and then we said in Parliament, well, it's bad. Our members told us so on the internet. So we actually introduced in our charter a hierarchy for how do we want to work on fields, how do we want to approach matters. We said the lowest one is liquid feedback. The one above is the party position, like something that was concluded on a party convention. Then it's the group decisions. So when the group comes together, makes a decision, we actually expect our members to follow the decision, unless they have important reasons not to do so. And then, of course, it's the manifesto. So what we wrote in the manifesto for the election is actually the most important thing. But in the end, of course, it's up to the representative to decide for themselves and to work this out without their own conscience. So, and also, of course, to make initiatives ourselves, we form groups. We have, I think, like 40 or 50 different groups in Berlin who work on different matters. We make conferences, we reach out to the civil society, we permanently extend our program, and what is very important is we always try to ask what could be the pirate position on this. So in some fields it's not that easy, but in some fields it's very important that you show an alternative, that you show a third way for something. I want to give you just a few examples. When I'm responsible for migrant politics, I try to bring it down to migrant politics being about participation. So it's about participation for as many people on all levels, like voting rights, education, work licenses, so that people can be integrated into society via work. It's about who is actually representing whom. Is this person or is this group actually a good representative for these people? And then, of course, it's about transparency. Bringing transparency into the field of migrants politics is like it's horrible. It's very, very exhausting, because there are so many projects that are permanent, but they get permanent money, but they are still called a project. So, but for me, a project is something that has a beginning and the end. And if it's just confusing. If you have a project that goes forever on, you need to make it a permanent institution. And then, of course, you have the anti-discriminatory work. Just another example for domestic politics. Of course, that's quite easier. We are just for civil liberties, and that's something that we fight on all the domestic and police politics. But of course, also we can ask ourselves, how do you actually want to solve regional crime heists? What do we actually want to do? And there we are going to talk to civil peace services and talk about the option of building round tables in city quarters, just having an alternative to putting more boots on the ground and having more policemen, having more possibilities for policemen to use their own ways. And just shortly, like asylum politics, of course, that's a classic field. We need to ask ourselves, how can we give more civil liberties, not just for citizens, but also for asylum seekers and refugees. It's hard to reach any improvements, but it's most important in this scenario, I think, for the Pirate Party to just bring the topic in society, and also to take the topic from the interest groups, from the few interest groups that they have, into the party, because this is a very important matter for a group that almost has no lobby. So I just want to talk briefly about what was special in Germany, what was special in Berlin, that made it possible for us to have this huge success that actually very, very few people really expected. In Germany, we have a very easy, accessible voting system. We already had the fourth election when we participated in the European election, and then we participated in almost all other elections that we had in Germany. And I think this is a very major point, because if you participate in an election, you bring over your topics, you motivate your members, you go to the streets, you have contact, you have a good reason to talk to the people, they have a good reason to approach you. So to participate in all the elections, as many as possible, is a very good way. So what's so special about Berlin? Yes, there are lots of creative people, there are lots of students, there are lots of people willing to experiment with their vote on giving someone new a chance. In the last election we had a seniors party reaching almost 5%. They didn't make it into parliament, but they fared quite well. Yes, it's a good ground to try something new, but we are not that new anymore. People will not only vote for the Pirate Party as an experiment, but from now on people will vote for the Pirate Party as something that they know it can work. So it's a difference now, and this is also one of the reasons that we are now in the second parliament in Saarland, that we will go into a third parliament and a fourth parliament just in 1 month, and that we will enter more parliaments. It's still an experiment, but it's not an experimental vote anymore. So what is the situation in Germany right now? We are having a huge member growth. We grew from 12,000 members to 25,000 members in just about 6 months. We get a huge response from almost everybody we know. I mean, our own families didn't really believe that this would be successful, and they tell us, wow, that's great, you're in parliament, and this is just something, this is a project that I didn't really know what to expect from, and now I know, okay, it's something that could change politics, it could change the view of a generation. It was said to be a Berlin phenomenon, but that's not the case anymore. We have massive media attention, and actually you might think that we in Germany have a lot of program, but the media is trying to portray us as a party that has no program at all. It's like they didn't read it. It's quite funny. Just because we don't give answers to Afghanistan, the Euro crisis, but on many other very important topics. One fun fact is, you might have noticed that our campaign in Berlin was not about copyright at all. We didn't transport the topic because it's a federal matter. It's not relevant, or it's not that relevant on a state level. So we didn't make it a focus. We didn't actually really talk about it in the campaign. Now 6 months later, the same with Saarland. Now 6 months later, all the media is full of copyright discussion. They are talking about copyright reform. We had like a 12-page front page campaign from a major newspaper in Germany saying our hedge belongs to us and we don't need copyright reform. Please let everything stay as it is. We didn't even address the matter, and just because our name is Pirate Party, even though our own position in Germany is not that different from other positions like from the Greens and the left, just because our name is Pirate Party, they feel threatened, and they are talking about, and they are talking about the matter. This already is a huge success, so it's really not that bad if you don't address the original matter that you were founded for immediately, because the media will definitely come back to this one. This is something that I can tell you. So we are actually not heard from all the bad media. We have some good, we have some bad, but we are not heard from it. We are at 13% in the polls right now in Germany. And we have, just yesterday they released a statement saying we have 30% potential in Germany, which is actually growing. And what especially makes me happy is that this 30% are almost equally in the west and in the east of Germany. There's almost no party that has as many voters in both parts of Germany, and almost as many men as women in these polls. So actually one thing that makes me very happy is the Austrian Pirates were in 7% in the polls. Well, and I think most of the media attention they get is just from the German television portraying us. So most of the people probably ask themselves, are there really Austrian Pirates? But yes, there are, and I think they can be quite successful. So other parties, of course, are talking a lot about us. Like the media is full of other parties talking about pirates, and most of the things they say is obviously bullshit, but it's quite interesting. For me, I think the message they are sending, the message the other parties are sending is not something directed toward the citizens, not something directed to us. I think they are sending messages to their own members. On the one hand saying, okay, this is a strategy that we should take, that we should approach the pirates with, but on the other hand they are sending the message, hey, we are still needed, we are still important, don't despair. And I think this is one of the things that makes us successful actually, because they are sending or trying to send the message that they are needed. But I think no party is really needed. You don't need parties. People use parties to bring what they think is right for society into action. So it is important that we always remember no party is needed, not even our own. What we need is ideas and change, and what society needs is important ideas, and our idea is there, and it's not going to fade away. Our idea is there, and it's going to stay, and this is all I have to tell you on this.
Thank you, Fabio. Well done.